Well, when that last video rendered, I made a discovery. I didn't know this. And I don't know when Photoshop actually introduced this. If I click on the type tool in order to pull this up, and I was changing the typeface, and I'll just do it this way so you can see as I roll over this, this changes without being selected, without me having to, let me click back up here and hit return. Whoop, Z, Command Z. Why did that happen? Okay. Normally, in the past, you had to highlight it in order to change things. So that's neat. It doesn't work with tracking and kerning. Well, of course not with kerning, but with tracking it doesn't work. So let's go ahead and deselect that. And now let's type the Valhalla Theater Arts Department, right? So we're going to click here, and this is way too big. Let's change this to 100. And I don't know if that's the right size or not. And then pick your secondary font. You don't want to use the same font as your title. And mine was Adorn. So it was this Condensed Sans Regular. And then rather than typing, I'm just going to paste this, Valhalla Theater Arts Department. Now, if we look at our poster, see how this is spaced out, Valhalla Theater Arts Department, and then underneath it is the word Presents. And the space between the letters in Presents is even greater, and the size of the type is smaller. So this I did on one line, hit return, adjusted the leading between the lines, highlighted. There's a lot of steps here. I'm going to show you a different way, probably a simpler way when you're beginning. Here we have Valhalla Theater Arts Department. Let's select that, and then there are a number of ways to increase the space between every single character. That's called tracking. If I hold down the Option key, hit the right arrow, and I'm hitting it repeatedly, it increases. The left arrow decreases. We can also open up the type panel, and you can do this manually and set a number. You can type a number and hit return, or you can scrub right here and increase or decrease just by pulling your cursor back and forth. I happen to like, once you get it close, I happen to like the control you have with the Option and getting this just so. And let's say that's it. Okay, boom. Now, what about our second line, Presents? Well, I want to use this text in order to help me make that second line. But before we do that, let's add our stroke and our outer glow. And rather than starting from scratch, let's come over to these effects, right-click on them, say Copy Layer Style, and then click on the uppermost layer, right-click, and come down to Paste Layer Style. Now, this is far too extreme, and all we need to do is double-click, say on the stroke, and change that 4 to a 2. Hit return. Whoa. Hit return. We can go ahead and open this up again, hit outer glow. I should have hit tab instead of return. Now we're on the outer glow, and we need to decrease this a little bit, especially the size. Let's bring that in. It's a little too extreme. And again, this, a little noodling, taking a little time, that makes a big difference. Now, to create a duplicate of this, we can hit this, we can hit Command J, we can do whatever we like. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. So I just hit Command J. And if I click and drag this down, you see that we have a copy and it's moving around. I'm going to hold down the Shift key in order to constrain it to a vertical, and then double click on this to select everything, and then type Presents. Highlight Presents, and then we can change the size. We can scrub right here, make it a little smaller, and then we can change the tracking. Pull this out, right? And the reason for changing the size is to allow people to understand, and maybe just a little smaller. And again, this is one of those things you noodle and play around with and get just so. And maybe I move this up a little bit, and this is not perfect. But what I want to do is click on Presents and shift click on Valhalla Theater Arts Department, and then use shift down arrow in order to move this closer and into position for where we want it. Now, this is not perfect. There's a lot of back and forth, and you've got to have the by William Shakespeare and then the dates at the bottom. So, like I said, I'm going to leave the rest of that to you. The placement of this, again, is a judgment call, but come back here and notice that the title, the author, the production company are all together here, and then the dates, time, and where to buy the tickets are together down here. The woman's in the middle, everything centered except for William Shakespeare, who's kind of tucked in right there. This T comes down at an angle, which is why I ended Shakespeare there. This creates that visual line. Theater Arts Department and Shakespeare kind of align. This doesn't align all the way down here because I felt it was too big. This needed to be small and not detract from our focal point of the poster and the title, which is the most important thing. If your title doesn't stand out, your poster has failed. The title is as important as this character in its own right. The most important visual element with this imagery is her. This light coming down towards her, repeating this angle right here. These design elements play together. So, the tilt of the typeface, this italic face, this is all one big design idea that I tried to execute. It's not perfect. It's a work in progress, and it was something just to give you guys an example. I want one or more of you to come up with something theater likes better. I want your art up, not mine. You got it? So take these skills that I've been sharing with you, practice them, and learn how to design, because we're going to be doing this the rest of the year. Have fun with it.